Well, hello, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for tuning in here. Let's talk today about something very, very fundamental, yet very practical, and that is the subject of resistance to this course. Why does A Course in Miracles engender so much resistance? It's a very interesting practical question, and one that comes up for all of us eventually as we study and practice this material. However much time you have spent on it in this lifetime. You may be brand new to this, or you perhaps have been studying and practicing this material for decades, or perhaps you're just checking this out. Maybe YouTube has recommended this video to you. You're watching, you're thinking, what is this Course in Miracles thing all about? That's a really good question, by the way. I invite you to stick around. So, whatever your experience level, this conversation applies to each and every one of us. This course does, in fact, engender extraordinary resistance. Oh, yes, extraordinary, deep-seated resistance. Now, why would that be? Well, it is one thing to think about and to talk about awakening, enlightenment, going home, however we characterize awakening in words. But however we characterize this thing, it sounds beautiful to talk about, yet when we step out onto the path, we realize there's work involved. Hmm. Yeah. Should you choose to continue studying and practicing A Course in Miracles, you will have to do the work, or you won't learn the course. Awakening will be delayed. Now, I say delayed because it's inevitable. A part of each and every one of us knows this. It's why we're attracted to spirituality in the first place. We formulate the idea, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, that there's got to be more to it than just the needs of this physical organism. And of course, there is more. There's got to be more to it than just checking email. That can't be the meaning of our entire supposed existence. It's certainly not. We all know there's more to it than that. You're on what we consider to be in this world the spiritual path, whether you practice this course or not. You're on what we refer to as the path, a walk, yeah, journey, marathon, sprint. These are all words that we use to characterize the process of undoing the ego, which is what spirituality is all about. This course just comes right out and says that, and it says in no uncertain terms that there is no separation of any kind. You are not separate from your brother. You are not separate from God. There is no separation, remember? So, why the extraordinary resistance? Well, to put it very succinctly, we think we're an ego. We think we're an individual. We think we're individual human beings and that everyone else is an individual human being. And we don't question it until we do. Here comes the resistance because we've identified as an ego, as an individual. We take this sense of separate self to be us. Then we look in the mirror, then we take this thing to be us, all of our social conditioning tells us unequivocally that this is us, yet we know it's not. Not. Again, or you wouldn't be here. So the question is, are you ready to delve into all of this? And are you ready to look at this extraordinary resistance and set it aside? Because if you have not experienced it yet, you will. And perhaps this video will cause that. Consider that was meant to be. There is tremendous resistance to learning this course. Why is that? Well, we're afraid of awakening. Again, if you protest that you're not, well, you're listening to this conversation, aren't you? We're having this conversation. That means on some level, there is fear of waking up. If you were fully awake, this conversation would not even be necessary. So it's not convenient to think of it this way at all, nor is it flattering, nor is it one of these rainbow and unicorn style walks through a tropical garden with a fistful of money and a hot, sexy lover kind of pictures that we see out there in the world. It's not about that. What world? Hmm. Right? What tropical garden? We experience resistance to truth. We experience resistance to this course because we don't want to give up our ego identity, our supposedly precious sense of individual self. We're afraid that if we awaken, we will die. Really, we're deep down afraid that if we wake up and recognize the sheer emptiness of all of this and set it aside for all time, that that will be the end of our existence. Well, it will not. It will not. But here, as we run amok and fear awakening greatly, greatly, we have what looks like a gradual process of awakening, one moment at a time, in what looks like a walk. It does. It looks like a journey, a path along which we walk, or sprint, or run, or crawl, or whatever it is. Sometimes it stands still, it seems like. You know, we conceive of it this way because let's be perfectly honest. Our inner teacher knows what he's doing. Our inner teacher knows what we're ready for. And if a blinding flash where the ego is laid aside for all time is going to terrify you, that's not going to happen for you because it's not the time for that. And perhaps this won't happen for you in this lifetime. You're going to get exactly what you need right now in the present moment. You're going to get exactly what you need to hear from watching this video. That's inevitable. What that will be, I don't know. But there's a reason that you're watching amidst all of this other content. There's so much out there. Yet here you are. So there's a reason why you are here. The goal of A Course in Miracles is happiness and peace for us, yet we're afraid of it. We don't want to, we're terrified of giving up our cherished ego identity. So, how do we do that? Well, here on what appears to be a process, a path, or whatever we call it, we go to work on this by raising this fear to the level of conscious awareness and forgiving and releasing. That's how we do it. This is the work that people are so extraordinarily resistant to doing here. This course is not convenient. It's not a walk in the park at all. It's not the stroll through the tropical garden, having manifested tons of money, wheelbarrows full of money that you push in front of you alongside your hot, sexy lover, eating your favorite food and drinking your favorite wine, listening to your favorite music, all blissed out and making it all so real. It's not real. Yeah, it's not that. That is not this course. So it's about how do we wake up? Well, we first of all make ourselves aware of everything that's in the way of our waking up. Awakening is recognizing and forgiving and releasing, in other words, clearing the way. A helpful image, something that I've always thought helped me, is to think of it as a veil over our eyes. We don't see things as they are because we see the veil, these obstacles that actually we ourselves have interposed between ourselves and truth. Truth is all encompassing. The veil is thin, or you wouldn't be watching this. In fact, you can probably start to see and pick out the light through it. Or again, or you wouldn't be watching this. And one moment at a time, we lift the veil. Perhaps it's multifaceted and multi layered. Again, the traditional image of spirituality being like peeling layers off of the onion is apt here. We lift and remove. We learn to see things as they really are. With the veil covering our eyes, we cannot see things as they really are. And that is a metaphor. That's We don't see actually with the body's eyes at all. We're not a body. We see with the mind. Mm, mm. Think about this. When you dream, you see things very vividly, don't you? When you dream at night, your eyes are closed. You're not seeing them with the body's eyes. What are you seeing them with? The mind. Waking up from the dream, this dream, this dream is exactly like waking up from a dream at night. When you wake up in the morning, you recognize that everything that seemed so real, perhaps terrifying, perhaps lovely, perhaps both, weird, chaotic, random, and insane, none of that was real. It doesn't exist. It's nothing. We make a very, well, it's sad in a way. It is. But we make a very big mistake here when we feel this fear of awakening. And rather than forgive it and release it to our inner teacher, choose to give in to it. We think that not learning this course, we think that our stubborn, steadfast refusal to learn this course is actually going to protect us. It does not protect us. If you don't release the fear, it remains. So we can run and hide We can say we don't want anything to do with the mind and mind training. There's a lot of that out there, isn't there? People saying, oh, we can finally get away from the mind. You can't get away from the mind. You know that, right? We all do. So we can run off and hide and refuse to awaken, or we can jump right into it. And when we do, we will encounter this resistance. How do you deal with it? Well, first of all, it's important to become aware of it. Nobody can expect anybody to solve any problem ever, ever, if they're not aware of it. So we raise all of our stuff to conscious awareness. And it comes up a little bit at a time because the Holy Spirit knows what you're ready for. He does. He knows what we're capable of handling, and we'll never get more than that. We'll get what we're able to process, forgive, and release in the present moment. So anything that makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, including this fear of awakening, is an opportunity to forgive. Forgive what appears in front of you. Forgive it and release it. Central to this forgiveness, which I call true forgiveness, is that we acknowledge that there's never been any separation. There's nothing, in fact, to fear. The separation never occurred. Include this in your forgiveness practice. I often do. I often remind myself that the separation never occurred if I'm appearing to forgive somebody for something that they appear to have done. I simply remind myself that we're not separate. My brother and I are not separate. I forgive him, forgive her, forgive them. They didn't do anything to me. There's never been any separation of any kind. I forgive this. I release it to the Holy Spirit. Very important. And rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Anything that appears in our lives that is not wholly joyous, anything at all, is the opportunity to forgive. Doing this is how we awaken. This is how we do it. If you wish to wake up, it cannot be avoided. You can delay as long as you wish, of course. You may choose to think that this thing is wrong. Actually, it's a pixelated image on your screen. You could think that this course is completely full of it. I mean, you could. You could think that mind training, which this course clearly is, and it states that it's a course in mind training, you could think that that's all totally bogus and unnecessary. I'm going to go off and do this. I'm going to go off and do that. Okay. You're welcome to delay as long as you wish. It's your choice. Part of the beauty, the brilliance of A Course in Miracles lies in the very simple fact that it is a self study curriculum. We take whatever we want to take at a given time. We take whatever we're willing to take at a given time. So the question for all of us becomes, and receive this however you will, how ready are you to take a look at all of this fear, this deep-seated fear, recognize it for what it is, nothing, and release it. Forgive and release, forgive and release. What you are, is beyond all concepts, beyond all limitation. And you know who this is. You know what this is. You know where you are. You do. This is not you. The limitations that we heap upon ourselves in this world are not who we are. They do not define us. We can release them. We can let them all go. Will fear come up? Yeah. Yes, it will. But you have the guidance available to you to help when that arises. You have the tools available to you to help when that arises. And I'm willing to bet that you have the will. I know you have the will to deal with that when it arises. Not if, but when it arises. There's tremendous resistance to true forgiveness of the Son of God. There's tremendous resistance to the light. Perhaps you're experiencing it. Perhaps you've experienced it for decades. It may be acute right now, or this may be a video that doesn't speak to anything acute for you at the moment, but it probably will at some point. We forgive and release. As we do, we begin to realize that there is no separation of any kind. I'm not just saying that, it's true. It's true. We begin to realize it. How will you know that you're making progress? Well, if you're a student of this course, then use your study and practice of A Course in Miracles as your gauge. If you are a student of another tradition, use that tradition as your gauge. It really doesn't matter. Think of who you were when you began this tradition, whatever it is. And that is, it makes no difference whether it was yesterday or 30 years ago. That does not make any difference. Who were you then? Who are you now? Who are you now? How do you see things now as a result of your practice? Are you more loving? Are you more forgiving? Are you calmer, more chill? Maybe more patient? Maybe. Do things that used to bother you a lot bother you as much now, or do they bother you at all? Hmm. That can be a useful gauge because we all have these moments of feeling this fear of letting go of the ego. Understand the ego is a simple mistake. There's never been any separation of any kind. Having made this false sense of self, we can recognize its falseness by looking past it. True forgiveness looks past the illusion of what meets the body's eyes, which is multiplicity and separation, looks beyond it to the truth of who and what we are, perfect oneness. The more we look beyond, the kinder the world appears, the more loving we appear, more forgiving, the more forgiving everyone else seems to appear. Hmm. The more peace we begin to experience, the more certainty we begin to experience. And we do this as often as we remember to do it. Forgive and release. All right. So, my hope in offering this exact topic is that you'll be inspired to put these ideas into practice. I can't emphasize enough that we cannot learn this course unless we do it. Unless we put these ideas into practical application, we will not learn this. We will simply accumulate intellectual knowledge. We've done a lot of that. Hey, I've got a doctorate degree over there. I mean, I earned it for sure. Blood, sweat, and tears. I suffered for it long ago. It's framed over here in the closet. You know, I mean, if you've invested heavily and strongly in the values of this world, I'm right there with you. But we don't learn this by merely acquiring intellectual knowledge. Yes, that has value. However, it absolutely pales in comparison to what we learn when we put it into practice, when we forgive, when we invite the Holy Spirit to run our entire show, when we completely give up our egoic control over life and hand it over to our inner teacher, things like that. When we do this, our experience does something very important. When we put this course into practical application, our experience shows us these ideas are true. It proves to us that these ideas are true. That's profound, deep learning. And that's what we all must do. So, to the extent that a conversation like this inspires you to put these into practice, that's the point. Now, if you have comments or questions, this is also a very valuable space to ask those. We've had a number of really wonderful discussions right here in the comment threads on YouTube. So if you have comments or questions, please feel welcome to leave them. And I invite you also to subscribe. This is the prompt here. That arrow is what you do. You click that, hover over that, and a little pop-up will show and say subscribe. So please do that if you've not yet joined us. And if you have subscribed and you'd like to be notified of each video that comes down here, there are several each week. Go ahead and click that bell and click the notifications. You could choose to be notified of every new video that comes along here. All right. So expect the fear along the way. We're letting go of the ego and expect it to want you to come back to it. Expect that, but know that you have everything in your power available to you to set it aside. Recognize it, forgive, release, go through and beyond it. What's beyond it? You know. All right. I'll be seeing you.